Anita here and welcome to day 19 of the Inktober challenge. Today we are working on something I've named a Gnome Witch. And let me tell you why. I actually had this idea for a while. I wanted to draw just a mini witch, you know? I knew that I wanted something like a little fairy or maybe an elf, just a tiny little witch. And when I was drawing this idea, I immediately thought about a big hat, of course, and then to kind of balance out that teeny weeny body, I thought it would be really cool to have a long, like very luscious curly hair. And that was fine, that was it. And then when I started this morning, when I went through my sketchbook and I picked the witch for today, I looked at her and I don't know why, probably because I've been watching some One Piece just episodes lately, catching up. If you watch One Piece, she really looks like one of the characters in one of the recent story arcs called Princess Mancherry. It's just it's not exactly the same character, but she also has that tiny body. You know, also has that little stuck-up nose, which was pretty much the first thing I wanted to do. That little nose that just points up. And she also has those luscious curly hair. And it always makes me laugh so much, because when I'm drawing, when I'm sketching, I don't think about, oh, I want to draw something based on a character from One Piece. But it always makes me it's so fascinating how much the things that we watch in the past, that we read, see, influence what we're drawing to that extent. So that's where she came from, and because Mancherry is a gnome, I believe, at least, that's why she became the Gnome Witch. And so I was actually drawing this I was lining it, doing the oh my goodness, the line art. The fine liner art. Oh, sorry. Oh no, sippy. I was doing the fine liner artwork downstairs while watching Totoro. And so all of a sudden the whole picture has been dominated by the dust bunnies, the little coal sprites that are in Totoro and Spirited Away. And I thought, you know, why not? They will be so fun to draw. I really wanted to see how they would come out, because I wanted them to be very fluffy. And I wanted to have a minimal background as well in this picture. No black background, nothing overbearing, just light, you know, and maybe with a little bit more detail. So I thought this would be perfect. And I wanted them to be really fluffy, and initially I thought that I would fill in the inside of the dust bunnies with just black ink, and then I would feather it out with the fine liner. But once I was doing kind of in reverse. So I was first feathering it out, and then I wanted to finish it with a coat of ink. But when I actually started doing the little fluffs, I realized that if I add the dark ink, the black ink, it will be too flat, and I really wanted them to be very, very fluffy. And so it took a while, more time than I expected, but I just fluffed them all out with the fine liner, and I'm so happy with how that came out. I feel it just, you know, it's not a big detail, but it really adds this point of interest and texture to the background. So much, in fact, because initially I wanted the inside of that wooden frame to be in a bit more of a grey shade. But it added so much interest to the picture that I've actually decided not to darken it. I just leave it the way it is. And I'm very happy with that decision. So then I started thinking about how I wanted to paint in the character, because I haven't planned it at all. I knew that I wanted to have a light wooden frame and the black fluffy dust bunnies. And so I figured, okay, then the rest of the background should be somewhere in between that tone. so a middle grayish kind of a color tone. But it felt that if I made the character too light, because that's what I was thinking at first, especially that Mancherry from One Piece, she has blonde hair. So once I figured out that, oh, that's probably where the inspiration came from, I wanted to, you know, do it justice. But then I felt like there was, even though the dust bunnies are so small, because there are so many of them, they create this really dark, at least to my eye, they looked really dark. And everything else looked really light, so I figured I wanted to balance it out. And so I came down, and on the lower part, it only seemed fair to have the hair black. And I've decided not to have any kind of shading on it, just leave those lines that I had previously in the line art, to just leave them and kind of leave a little bit of a glow, just so you could see those lines, but leave it just as a very flat space. And I loved it. I loved it so much. It took a while to actually fill it in because I was filling it with a very small brush, and because I had to leave those white parts. And it took quite a lot of thinking because it constantly, I had to think where the light was coming from, where the light source was, and I kept wanting to add light in different places, which I did in the end, of course. But that made it a little bit a lengthy process, I think. Oh, excuse me, there's something stuck in my throat today. Aye, sippy. So yeah, so while I'm filling that in, I have to say that I know I've been kind of nagging about feeling really, really down for the past few days and struggling a lot. And I have to say today I was struggling a lot as well, but now I'm feeling perfectly happy. And that's because my headache is gone. It's so funny how much a simple headache can affect how you are just seeing the world and feeling about doing things, because when I was still sitting down to paint, I still had a headache. But that's something I actually figured out in when I was younger. The best way to get rid of a headache for me personally, is actually to paint. Not always, of course, but it worked in this time because my headache is gone and I'm so happy, so happy. And all of a sudden everything is so bright and so happy and I'm so full of energy. But I want to go to sleep early because it's past 12 already. And recently I've been going to sleep really, really late because, like I've mentioned, I wasn't feeling very well and I wasn't feeling very positive about the challenge. So I was pushing the painting to the last moment, often painting around 11 in the evening. And so before, of course, I've painted, edited the video, recorded the voiceover. It was around 2 in the morning, and then I still walked my dog to, relax. And so before I went to sleep, it was 4. And I hate going to sleep that late. It doesn't feel good at all to wake up around 12. It seems to me, especially nowadays when the days are shorter, that just the whole day is gone. So I'm really motivated right now to go to sleep earlier today, just to kind of reset myself and start, going to sleep at a decent hour again. So here I am doing, filling in the areas of the hat and the pants. From the beginning, I wanted to indulge my love for plaid. I don't know, I think that I just have this love for the plaid pattern. I can't explain this. I just love the plaid pattern recently, okay? So I've decided this time to have a bit more subtle plaid. I wanted to have a very dark surface with a dark pattern. And initially I wanted to do the plaid pattern in a fine liner, but I've, not in a fine liner, I'm sorry, with the paintbrush. But I was afraid that because because it was such a dark area, the ink washes, when they're wet, they're very vibrant, but they dry much duller, much duller, you know what I mean, than what they look like when they're wet. And oftentimes, you know, it's not a problem when I'm doing like here. I'm adding the color, or the shade, whatever. I'm adding the ink wash just to darken that area a little bit for a shadow. But I'm actually expecting that I will probably have to repeat that same pattern, that same wash. Because you can already see it at the next to the belt, next to the little ribbon. And here exactly, it dries much lighter than it's when it's wet. And so when I was thinking about drawing, painting in that plaid pattern with a paintbrush, I was afraid that I would have to do it a few times before I actually got to that intensity that I wanted. And I felt that in this case, there was just no point. It was too much effort for too little effect. It's just a little plaid pattern, you know, it doesn't really change something remarkably about the picture. And I felt that even if I put the lines of the pattern with a fine liner, it would still get the same effect. And so I've done that. I just used the fine liner. I've drawn in the lines where the plaid is supposed to go, where the pattern is supposed to go, with a pencil. And then I drew in the lines, and I've erased the pencil lines with an eraser. Duh. I'm trying to concentrate enough so I can explain what I'm doing. And what the eraser actually does is it picks up a little bit of the pigment, not too much, but just enough so that the pattern looks like it's blending in with the hat. I don't know how to explain it, but I've noticed that it was I could do it, so I've decided to use it in this case, and it worked, so I'm happy. The only thing I was really nervous about is the shape of the hat, and I wanted the plaid to overlap in a certain way. Nah, but it came out really good, so that made me happy. So that was kind of the big, at least the first big thing that I wanted to do. I knew that I wanted to have the hat really dark and have plaid on it, even before I drew any of the pictures in. That's something that I wanted to do since yesterday. It wasn't exactly for this character. I just really wanted to try a dark color with a dark plaid on it. It's just a plaid month, okay? Plaidtober. It's a challenge for next year. So here I'm adding a little bit of shading to the wooden frame. I've done this one actually was it actually last Sunday? I think it was last Sunday. It just feels like ages ago. In the picture that I have done only with a fine liner, I've used the fine liner to create this shaded wooden branch around the character. It had little branches coming out of it with little leaves. And so I wanted to do the same thing, but with just regular shading with washes. And simpler, without all the gnarliness, I suppose. With just, without the shading, without the texture, just simple, very simple, simple shape. And I really like it. I'm surprised that I like everything today. It's also, the more I paint, I'm becoming a bit more positive towards this whole Inktober project, because we are at day 19 right now. Tomorrow it will be day 20, and then it's just downhill. You're just almost at the finish line. So to me, the bulk of it is already done. I'm already done with it, and so every single piece now is more of I'm coming closer towards the end, and the end is already in sight. And it might seem like I'm completely tired with Inktober, because I am. That's what a challenge is, if it's not a challenge if you're not absolutely tired with it, at least in my opinion. Of Of course, it doesn't mean that you have to completely run yourself to the death and be exhausted, mentally drained and everything. And I do feel mentally drained and then physically. And I really want it to be end, but I'm enjoying it at the same time. It's a very, very weird feeling. So, yeah. So my point is, the closer we actually to the end, I'm getting more excited because, you know, it's almost the end. So not only I will achieve all the paintings, I will have made all the paintings, but it's the end. I can rest. It's so weird. And of course, at the end, I have the, you know, shining bright vision of me just with popcorn next to me watching Stranger Things Season 2, which I am so extremely excited about. It's just unbelievable. I watched Season 1 again not last week, this week actually. I think we watched it with my boyfriend from Monday to Wednesday, I think, just something like that. So just in between, you know, meals and painting and stuff. It's really, yeah, it's an obsession by now. Excuse me, it's my throat is completely stuck. But anyway, so now I've decided that the bottom of the character, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, what I wanted her to stand on. So instead of overthinking it, I've decided to settle on simple stones. I could have done like a wooden pattern to continue that wood feeling, but I really like painting stones, and I like that they give a different texture. I also feel like they are going with that whole roundness of her hair. I just liked it. Plus, if it's, you know, the stones, I can easily make that lower edge rounded, which will fit with that frame shape. It's just basically, you know, a choice. And then I'm working on basically shading it. So I'm trying to make it look like, you know, there's some shadow cast on it and it's disappearing under her hair, just making it fit with the picture. I'm also adding a little bit of shadows to the highlights because not, you know, the highlight will not be the same in every place. That's something I've learned. Well, I knew it before, but I've kind of consciously realized it right now after doing the Inktober, which, you know, I'm so curious how it's going to affect my watercolor paintings. So yeah, there's not much to be told about this picture anymore. It's pretty much right now I'm just fiddling with finishing the things that I don't really feel like finishing. For me, the most exciting part was the hat, which I think it looks gorgeous. I would wear this hat. It's the most beautiful plaid ever. It looks like it's made out of a blanket. It looks so warm. So I'm adding just base shading to the parts that are not interesting anymore, like the head and the shirt. I've added a little bit. Oh, yeah, that's right, because at some point my battery ran out in my phone, and I had to charge it, and I got bored while waiting. Tomorrow I'm going to set some kind of, you know, electricity situation where I can just plug the charger directly, so I don't have to worry about the battery running out. But I couldn't find any at this point, so I just had to wait for it to be charged, and I lost patience. I just kept adding little bits. I was like, nobody will notice. So I've added those notches to the belt, and I'm very proud of them because it's an X1 and an X, which is 19, which was kind of unplanned because I did on her right side, well, my right side, your right side, the 1 and an X first, and I thought, oh wait, that I can make a 19 out of that. Just the X doesn't fit next to the belt buckle anymore, so I'm going to push it onto the other side. It's gonna be undercover X. Yeah, just a little. Please don't judge me. So these are basically just finishing touches. I was I wanted to be done with this already. Like I said, you know, the most exciting part for me was the hat and the hair and then the dust bunnies. and the rest is just a drag. I want to be done with it. So I'm just trying to fiddle with it but be done as quickly as possible. So my initial sketch had, instead of the dust bunnies, it actually had a spider hanging from her hat, like in this exact same spot. And like I've mentioned, initially I wanted to have a darker background, and I felt that the spider web wasn't necessary anymore. But there was this big open space now that I wasn't planning to fill with anything, so I figured, you know, why not actually add it back? And I'm very happy because it's a very delicate touch. It's not overly, you know, sharp. I like it. Not very fond of spiders, but, you know, I feel it adds a little bit. And then I've added, you know, the eyes, a few white details to her hair. The dust bunny eyes, which then I've proceeded to add a little bit, because the dust bunnies, I don't know if you've seen Totoro before, they have a white eyes and then there is a black dot in the middle. So I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with this, if I wanted to do completely white eyes or if I wanted to add black dots in the middle. I've actually done the black dots because I felt that I could make them look in different direction, and that would add a little bit more of an interest in that. Plus, I am not exactly... I don't want to do creepy anymore because I don't want to be demonetized, you know? These videos don't bring much money, of course, but, you know, it's always something and it adds up. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm pretty much done here. I'm just signing it up and removing the tape because, I don't know, I just enjoy it as an outro kind of a thing, just revealing the whole picture. I had much more fun than I've expected. I'm trying to make these sessions a bit more easier on me, you know. Since now I'm using my phone for recording, I can't really do anything on it anymore. So I brought my laptop from downstairs so I can watch something in the like I've done on the phone before. Now I can watch it on the laptop, makes it more fun. So yeah, thank you so very much for watching, guys. I hope you're enjoying this series. I mean, I know you do because you're leaving me comments. I love the comments. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye!